work on solutions to the problem. So we want to get your ideas as well. So don't hesitate to give us feedback and participate in the process. This unemployment problem now over 12%. This is not something that we're going to be able to solve with the things that we've done in the past. We're going to have to be creative, and we're going to have to use our ingenuity and our ability to work hard to get out of this. In the past, we had a manufacturing industry in the United States, and while our auto manufacturers have bounced back and are raised the quality standards, they've become, for instance, with Ford, almost an international conglomerate. They're hardly just an American company anymore, though they have a lot of American manufacturing facilities. But the strength that's being shown there is good. That's excellent. But we're not going to be able to go back to manufacturing all the things that are being manufactured in China now. So we're going to have to come up with new ways to do this. And what we have at FCAN, and the part of this that I want to talk about, is what we call the American Jobs Plan. We have a 5-point plan. We're working with organizations around the country through our national organization, U.S. Action. We have affiliates in 26 states, and so we're all working on this at once. So yeah, there's 20 of us or 25 of us in this room tonight, but there's a lot more people around the country who are having these same kind of conversations and dealing with these same problems and coming up with solutions. So we have some ideas for you. First of all, we'd like to strengthen the safety net. Unemployment compensation, while it's not much, is something, and it's almost impossible to survive on it here in Florida. We're one of the lowest states, but we still need it. We've got to have it. It's a lifeline. And if you've tried to survive on Florida unemployment, you find it's very difficult, and you really want to get a job and get off of unemployment. It doesn't encourage people to stay on unemployment. That's just not true. So it needs to be extended. It's currently viable through April, and there has to be another extension of the emergency benefits beyond that. But that's a lifeline to our community. It needs to keep going. We also need to continue Cobra supplements for people. That's people's health insurance when they get laid off. It was almost unaffordable, but in the emergency situation, the government has made it, they subsidized it and made it reasonable for people to have. You've got to continue to have health care. So those are two of the priorities to help see us through this problem. We need more fiscal relief to the states and to the local governments. This is one of the big problems that we've seen. It's been the second blow that's hit us after the first one. We had all the job losses. Well, then now the local governments, our council in Dingfelder represents, are now facing tremendous problems and having to lay off yet another whole group of people. And so that's going to make things even worse. As if it wasn't bad enough already, that can make things even worse. So they need every bit of help that they can get. And one of the ways that we help our local governments and even our state government, as crazy as they might be, is through taxes. And people have said, well, we got to have tax cuts. Well, no, I think that's part of the problem. And I know that's, people don't like to hear that, but we need, at times like this, we need to have some money in our community to be able to get through the crisis. Those are our libraries, and we want to maintain them. That's our health care. That's our fire engines. That's filling the potholes in the road. And it takes tax dollars to do that, and that will help sustain the community. We're not wise to cut and cut and cut. It's going to hurt us, and it's hurting us now. So we would hope that our elected officials in Tallahassee and Washington would be a little bit smarter about the taxes, and that people would get smarter about paying just a little bit, in order to help sustain the community. We feel that we should increase investments in transportation infrastructure and school repair and modernization. Now, we all know about the transportation dollars. President Obama came down here and gave us a bunch of money to build trains, and we could see all the highway construction going, and that's great as far as it goes, but we need more. And the big idea that we have is investing in our schools. We have a 50% dropout rate in Florida. That's just stunning. And that's wrong. And one of the reasons that as a nation we can't compete against other countries is our education system is letting our kids down. So we need to spend our money and fix up our schools, which will create jobs. We need to go in there and make them the best schools anywhere and get more teachers and better teachers, pay them more. We need to do everything we can to make that education system what it should be, one of the best ones in the world. And that is money invested in future generations that will be very well spent. And we talk about how we're piling up all the expenses on a credit card that's going to be paid by Christina in future years. Well, this is a way we can invest, in the young people, for the future, and at the same time create the jobs we need now. So let's find the money and spend it on our schools, painting them, building new buildings where they're needed, cleaning them up, getting more counselors in there, giving them better libraries, getting them better computers and better microscopes, everything. Let's make them the best anyway. Public service jobs. We were talking about this at a time. We should have more of things like the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps and the WPA, which some of us heard about during the Great Depression. We put people to work fixing up our parks and becoming craftsmen and building homes. You could go to many places in the country and see the magnificent construction projects that were built at that time, even now. Lodges made out of whole logs in the Northwest, and bridges, just amazing stuff that was made by the people that learned to become craftsmen. They learned skills. Well, this wasn't a bad thing. That wasn't welfare. We put people to work doing something good for their country, for their city, for their town, and it was great. So public service jobs, they can be extremely useful. We have a lot of difficulty now with prisons. We have more people incarcerated than any country, and the state legislature is in between privatizing the prison or closing, a couple of our, it's a big problem. They can't find enough money. Well, why don't we spend some money, and some people are actually talking about this in Tallahassee, spend some money on rehabilitating these people, creating jobs, getting them trained, getting in there and really doing some serious work with drug intervention, with kids. It's awful, the problem we have out there with kids, addicted to oxys and things like that. It's awful. We need to do some work. Go down and visit drug court sometime. We have a lot that we could be doing there that we're not doing, and it will create jobs if we do it. The job creation tax credit is the last thing on the list, and we asked Carl about that, and the idea there is if you hire someone that's been out of work for a while, then you'll get a credit on your payroll taxes that you pay in, and that will be a direct help to hopefully to smaller businesses to help get things going, and that is a good idea as well. That is the 5-point plan, and so you say to me, Bill, that's pretty exciting, even idealistic. How the heck are you going to pay for that? Well, we call it the Wall Street tax. Now, you might have noticed if I read this gentleman's fabulous newspaper, the St. Petersburg Times business section, and I do every day, that the Dow is really doing well. Like 4 or 5 days straight, it's a pretty good chance it's going to cross 11,000. We bailed those guys out, remember, with your money not so long ago, because we couldn't let them fail, and now they're just riding high. They're doing fine. So what we are proposing, the bill is by Representative George Miller. It's a tax on stock transactions, and only over $100,000. So it's not going to affect any people's little IRAs or anything. But just a tiny little tax on that will generate the funding that is needed for all of these things that I've just talked about. Yeah, it's a tax on wealthier people, but all of this money that they're making is moving from place to place, and they're not paying tax on it. They got a huge break on capital gains. Their rate now is 15%, which is why people like Warren Buffett can say, I pay less taxes than my secretary does, who's one of the richest people in America. Well, this would change that a little bit, make it a little bit more progressive. So that's what we're advocating at FCAN, and that is the 5-point plan. So we can change things. We can deal with this. The plan, according to our estimates, and this is from the Economic Policy Institute, they've estimated this would create 4.6 million jobs, which would get us about halfway along toward the about 11 million we need to get to pre-recession employment levels. So let me stop there. See if there's any questions. Yes.